Hey friends, it's Allison here, jumping in real quick before you get into all the juicy details of today's episode. Did you know there is just one more week left to our 200th episode giveaway where you have the chance to win a full ride scholarship to the Better Belly Blueprint? This is the way to heal your gut so that you can poop daily, ditch acid reflux, and balance your hormones even when nothing else has worked. Here's how you can enter. Leave a rating and review on the Better Belly podcast on Apple Podcast or Spotify between now and May 29th. Take a screenshot of that rating and review, then go to betterbellytherapies.com/giveaway and fill out our 200th episode giveaway form. You will automatically receive an email with a code for $200 off the Better Belly Blueprint, which you're going to get as soon as you send in that form. And then a full scholarship winner is going to be announced on May 30th and messaged by email. If you win, you're going to win a full scholarship to the Better Belly Blueprint. And if you don't win, you can still get $200 off, which is 20% off of the Better Belly Blueprint if you join by May 31st at midnight. So go ahead and leave a rating and review. Get that giveaway form filled out at betterbellytherapies.com/giveaway, and you can finally end your constipation, acid reflux, and PMS for good. Have you spent hundreds or thousands of dollars on lab testing only to be as sick as when you started your health journey? Do you have a stack of lab tests you cart around to every new practitioner you work with? Do you want to know how to curate the best data to find the sources of your dysfunction without wasting money and time? If so, today's episode is for you. On today's episode, I'm interviewing Reed Davis, the founder and creator of Functional Diagnostic Nutrition, an online course that teaches anyone how to think and act like a functional health practitioner. In March 2020, I took Reed Davis's course and became an FDN. Becoming an FDN not only changed my life, but has changed the lives of the clients I work with. FDN is the base framework that I use with all my clients and the place I'd recommend anyone start if they're looking to teach themselves how to be a functional health practitioner. Tune in to join day 2 of our special 3-day series featuring Reed Davis and the unique and powerful FDN perspective on autoimmune disease, lab testing, and the extremely controversial SIBO. Hey friend, welcome to the Better Belly podcast. Do you want freedom from bloating and constipation? Do you find yourself up late at night Googling natural constipation remedies, causes for bloating, or recipes and exercises to help constipation? Are you frustrated with the mind game of trying to figure out what foods are helping or hurting your gut? Hey, I'm Allison, mom, wife, and functional gut health practitioner. At a young age, bloating and constipation were my constants. I didn't know what to do and wished I could just live a normal life focusing on my passions, my job, and my family. I was tired of abdominal pain that woke me up at night and wasting time and money on gut health remedies that just didn't work. Breakthrough moment, the functional medicine and osteopathic approach to gut health. In this podcast, you will find natural remedies for bloating and constipation, practical, doable belly exercises and massages, and debunk the myths about what really is causing your tummy problems. So toss out those laxatives and say goodbye to that embarrassing gas. Your gut health is calling. And just as a reminder, this information is not meant to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your own health practitioner before you make any changes to your health. All right, guys, we are back today for part 2 of my conversation with Reed Davis, who, if you are new to the conversation, is my mentor. And I took his program, the FDN practitioner course, and I'm now an FDN. And so everything at least the base foundation of things I talk about has come from who I have on the podcast today, Reed Davis. So Reed, we're jumping into part 2, which you've already actually alluded to from part 1, which was talking about lab tests and specifically the idea of more data isn't always better. Lots of people, if they've been sick for a long time, they've had lots of tests. I have people come into my office all the time and they say, do you want my lab tests? And it's like a stack, right? And then, but for you, you're talking, you can actually share with our listeners how to curate the right data to uncover the most dysfunction. So tell us, how do we do this?
Sure. Just a little background might be appropriate, and thanks for the opportunity. I ran thousands of labs on thousands of people. These are the sort of alternative labs. people have been almost turned away at their doctor's office, like, hey, your blood work's normal, there's nothing wrong with you. Well, people know they're not crazy. They know something's wrong. So they go searching. And those are the people who were coming to me in the office when I first started working there uh, in the last century. So it's been going on a long time. I started because I'm not a physician. I had a lot to learn, Allison, but I had nothing to unlearn. I just had sheer desire to help and get to the underlying causes and conditions. I didn't want to just sell supplements and I couldn't write a prescription. So I had to find out the real answers. What's really wrong? And how did that happen? So I just got lucky and started connecting with the right labs and the right people, associates and colleagues and mentors and that sort of a thing. And so I started running saliva testing, urine testing, stool testing, blood testing for things and discovering things. And again, I had great mentorship. But the sheer volume of the work that I was doing, I recognized things on my own. And there's some patterns. So you can run labs that are kind of useless. They're not worth the paper they're written on. Really, they aren't. And then when someone brings you a stack of tests, sometimes it's like yesterday's lunch. Who cares what you had? Really, it's what we need is certain functions. We need functional measurements. The hormones, got to know current status of the hormones, the immune system, digestion, detoxification, energy production, and the nervous system. So that's an acronym that I came up with called HIDDEN, HIDDEN. And those are the hidden stressors and dysfunctions and areas we need to look into. And because this is the pattern I discovered, once you get the hormones balanced and the immune system on track, and you get digestion working really good, so you're paying all that money for good food, make sure it's breaking down and getting absorbed. You're getting all the vitamins and minerals and essential fatty acids and antioxidants and trace elements and all the stuff out of your food. So you got the hormones balanced. You got the immune system not overactive, not underactive. You've got digestion work and breaking down food and absorbing all those great nutrients. You've got energy production, which is critical. You have to have the right amounts of protein and fat and carbs, and you have to know how to sort that out so that your cells are producing energy at the right rate and quality and quantity. Why? Because cells are smart. They know what their job is. You don't have to teach them anything, right? And so that's hormone, immune, digestion, detoxification, energy production in the cells. And then you've got the nervous system that has to be balanced. You don't want to be overly sympathetic, that's fight flight. And you don't want to be overly parasympathetic, which is rest and digest. Believe it or not, there's lots of people, they're not all anxious and fight flight and stressed out. So they're just way too laid back. Their parasympathetic immune system is dominating the distribution of energy and so on. So HIDDN, that's the labs that we run. There's 5 labs: blood, saliva, urine, and stool. And we do a thorough investigation of the healing opportunities across this constellation of data, and we connect the dots. It's not treat one dot. Physicians think it's thyroid. They go, sounds like thyroid, and run a thyroid test. God forbid they find low thyroid because they're going to write a prescription. Well, that's not sorting out the metabolic chaos that's actually going on.
And metabolic chaos is a term you coined to kind of describe all the stuff that can be hidden in the back that may not even be where you're getting your symptoms, but it is a source of the problem. So it could be pathogens. Maybe you don't have, maybe you think you have dandruff and you're not correlating with that with the fact that dandruff can be very much connected to things like candida and yeast overgrowth. Or you've got chronic UTIs where you're like, I just get a UTI several times a year. I get women who say that they get a UTI every time they have their period. That's happened before. And that becomes their norm. And the doctor they'll tell their doctor, and because the doctor's like kind of shrugs and says, okay, okay, then they just accept it as their new norm, and it doesn't file away as I should get everything checked up because where is this all coming from? And so, really, the lab tests that you recommend, they're totally different. Even the stool test, I get some clients who said, "Well, I've done a stool test at a conventional health system." The type of stool test that we use, it's the GI map. It has much more thorough diagnostic capabilities and even ranges if we get into functional versus standard ranges compared to conventional medicine doctor stool tests. So it's not just, you might hear Reed say saliva, urine, blood, and stool, and maybe you feel like you've already done tests that include that, but it's the quality of the test is totally different, and then the number of markers they're looking for, the types of markers they're looking for are totally different. And so, just for anyone listening to that, if you feel like, well, I've already done that, don't feel that way. These are different tests, and Reed, you haven't said the test name, and I don't know if I don't want to overwhelm listeners with too many foreign words and odd things, but sometimes clients are like, "Well, what are the names of these labs?" Are you okay if you share some of the ones that you teach?
Sure. But there's another aspect, another layer I want to put on top of what you just said.
Great. Hey friends, Allison popping in here for some quick good news. Did you know that you could become an FDN just like me? Right now, until June 30th, 2023, you can get $1,000 off the FDN certification by going to betterbellytherapies.com/FDN or by clicking the link in the show notes. FDN is the exact training and education I started with that has made me the functional health practitioner I am today. FDN is education for any person, whether you're a doctor, nurse, acupuncturist, massage therapist, health coach, school teacher, engineer, or stay-at-home mom. You can learn how to think like a functional health practitioner as well as learn how to analyze labs and create health protocols that can take you, your clients, or your patients to the next level. If you are wanting to take your health into your own hands, or you are looking for a way to more deeply impact your clients or patients, you can begin your FDN education today by going to betterbellytherapies.com/FDN. And if you are listening to this podcast after June 30th, you can still get $250 off by using the code FDN250. Just go to betterbellytherapies.com/FDN or click the link in the show notes to join today. Now it's time to get back to our episode.
Because it's really looking at it comprehensively, and people do say, you're right. They say, well, I already ran that a stool test or even some of the tests we might use, but they didn't run them all. And they didn't look at how these causal factors, this is very critical. We're identifying causal factors, not just one, but across the spectrum. And we're evaluating how these causal factors are interacting with each other. See, they're having an effect upon each other. Like the hormones affects the immune system, affects digestion, affects detoxification and hyperpermeability, and by the way, oxidative stress. And listen, I can go on and on and on with the big words, but the idea is that there are multiple, always multiple causal factors. It's not just sounds like thyroid. Oh, yep, pat myself on the back. It's your thyroid. Here's your medication. That's just not helping. It's not helpful, except for relieving a few symptoms. And so you've got to allow us to do our investigation. If you were a house and you wanted me to investigate your house, you wouldn't let me just into one room. You'd let me go in the attic and through all the bedrooms and down to the basement, and we'd look everywhere, and we'd find what's really going on, the culprit, so to speak, or culprits. But everyone kind of can follow that. But understanding how these things relate to each other is even more critical. That's why I call it metabolic chaos. I gave up the term root cause, not totally, because you always want to keep your eyes open and look for root causes, but there's never one, and they're having an effect upon each other, which is sometimes not singly measurable. So what you really need is a way of thinking about the whole thing. and always go back to your basics. I'm very proud of you. You said, the basics of what I do came from this way of thinking. And so with that, yeah, we run 5 labs on every person. You're gonna run a stress and hormone panel. We're going to look at your cortisol to DHA, the anabolic to catabolic hormones. We're going to look at the circadian rhythm. We're going to look at the sex hormones. We're going to look at melatonin. Plus, you're going to get a window into the immune system through the secretory IgA with the new stress and hormone panel. So it's easy to do at home. Anyone can do it. Take some training to understand the results, but it's your information, it's your body, it's your data. Don't you want to know what's going on, really? And yeah, people do. Once you show them, they're excited, like that. Wow, that's me. Someone else told me, "Oh, it's all in your head. There's nothing wrong with you. Your blood work looks normal." Well, we're looking at saliva of all of those things, and it's time specific. It's bioavailable levels. It's exactly what's going on at that moment in time in your body. So it's very revealing, and the data can be very emancipating. It tell you what you need to do to fix it. But remember, that's just one part of it, the hormones, and you get even deeper into the immune system. We do like to look at that secretory IgA because it could tell you if you have an overactive or underactive immune system. Most of that's in the gut. So we look at the gut immune. It's called secretory immunoglobulin A, secretory IgA, or just SIG-A, we call it. So we're going to look at that. And by the way, when that's chronically out of balance, you're going to notice that in our the next test is the metabolic wellness panel, which is look at digestion and oxidative stress and liver function, because you need to be detoxifying your body content. So the liver is a big indicator. It even points the finger, that test. So it's indicating for, are you breaking down protein? Do you have enough of the good flora that breaks down protein? If not, you have a dysbiosis. You have a flora imbalance, and you're not breaking down protein, which means you have amino acid and neurotransmitter deficiencies or imbalances. And so there's all these sort of rabbit holes we can go into. But generally, after we run the stress and hormone panel, look at all the hormones, we get a window into immune system, which we now with the next test, metabolic wellness panel, have a bigger look into, because we're looking at the floral balance. We're looking at oxidative stress, which is oxidization. It's like rusting of your body. And that could come from toxins from inside the gut, from this flora imbalance and bigger, badder bugs. And we're also looking at the liver function. So is it congested, or are you perfectly processing and detoxifying, which is in sick people not always the case. So that's just 2 tests. With the stress and hormone panel and the metabolic wellness panel, we can look at a lot of healing opportunities and see how they're interrelated.
Yes.
Especially when you correlate it with a person. We don't treat the paper. That's what other practitioners do. Oh, this is low. Here, take some of it. No, we want to know, why is it low? And we connect the dots to figure that out. Why is it low or high, whatever it might be?
Well, I was going to say, in all of the tests, having multiple tests plus all the data, one thing we actually haven't even mentioned right now is the phenomenal amount of data you help. And when you take the FDN course, I still use your intake forms that you give, and this gives us an insight. We pair a ton of data. It takes me less time now, but it used to take me hours to look at all this data and get a really big picture for a client. So I'm not asking them to do things that are not key and going to get them results. And I am asking them to do the high impact things so that they're not wasting their time, energy, or money, but they're actually feeling better. And it's because of this multi-view perspective we're getting on clients and seeing that whole picture, what you're calling metabolic chaos. And actually, I'm really thinking about a client. Can I share a story of a client that is coming to mind? So I had a woman come to me with her daughter. Her daughter was 21. really athletic. She was actually a soccer, like elite soccer player at her school, and
Mm.
into fishing and outdoorsmanship. And her daughter was actually having problems with her energy just sinking lower and lower, and her cravings going higher and higher, and getting bloating and actually gaining weight, which wasn't the main concern, but it was just odd because she was doing her normal life stuff, and she was just feeling worse and worse, and it was impeding her sports ability. And the mother is actually a nurse, the when they have a PhD. I'm totally blanking what it's called. Not a registered nurse, but a nurse with a PhD, which actually means she can function like a doctor.
Correct.
And she'd gone to every doctor in the area. They're from Portland. She'd gone to all of these fancy schmancy specialist doctors in the Portland area, and no one been able to figure out what was going on with her daughter. And I remember the day that I went over all of their lab results, because that's what I do in my foundations program. I do all these labs, and then we look at them all at the same time. And my clients say it's like Christmas, right? It's this understanding of their body to a level they have never had before, and it finally explains so many things and connections with all their so many symptoms, things that happened to them in the past that now make sense in the present, and and we finally have a roadmap. And things finally make sense and they don't feel crazy. And that's what you've enabled people to do by teaching this methodology, and by honestly being very bold and saying, no, you need more than one test. You don't need every test. You don't even need the crappy test. But having multiple tests at the same time is really part of the power of what you're doing in FDN.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that, and I'm very proud of you again. And of our system, we have hundreds and hundreds, actually a couple thousand people out there practicing FDN, functional diagnostic nutrition, we call it. And it starts with people who want to change their health, like you have a health problem and you really want to change it. And that's a working platform that we can deal with. So you got to invest in the labs. We mentioned the stress and hormone panel and the metabolic wellness panel, and then there's a mucosal barrier assessment. And each one of these things is a sort of a you can connect all these dots together. And then of course we do the stool test. We do need to look for pathology and dysbiosis and get deeper into that. There's some functional markers on our stool test. Doing that test alone could be helpful. You get lucky and you identify something, you get rid of it, and the person feels better. But that's too conventional. You really need to look at it in context of everything going on with that person, along with the food sensitivities testing. So that's 5 labs right there: the stress and hormone panel, the metabolic wellness panel, the mucosal barrier assessment, the GI pathogen and microbiome screening, along with the food sensitivity or oral intolerance testing. And man, you have a lot of data, like you said, and it's emancipating. You like Christmas, there's it's people. It could be a bit overwhelming, but the other thing that we teach is how to communicate this to people. I spent 10 years as the patient educator in an office. So I learned to talk to Mrs. Smith and Mr. Jones in a way that they totally understood. Remember, our job is to give them the data, which is their data. If physicians generally don't give out, oh, here's a copy of your blood work as you're leaving the office, they hold on to it in a secret file somewhere, like only, and it's not supposed to be that way. We run our labs and then we share everything we know about what does it tell you about that person. And when it tells a story and the person goes, wow, that's me, I can't believe you've told me what's wrong with me. How come other people don't run labs like this and talk like this? We don't know, but it's just not what they're trained in. Remember, the ladder is up against the wrong wall if you're looking to get that from conventional medicine. You can trust them, as I said, to do their job, which is to get you out of pain without figuring out where it came from or why you have it. It's just, here's what will stop it: drugs, surgery, some other techniques, sometimes therapies and what have you. And that's very helpful to get out of pain. Nothing wrong with relief care. But when you really want to get to the underlying causes, conditions, and that's putting your ladder up against a different wall. And it can be a lot of steps. Matter of fact, I love the stairway analogy, where we all have stairs to climb. There's no one perfectly healthy. Have you met anyone yet, Allison?
No, I myself included. I'm not in the perfectly healthy category.
We all have work to do. And so it's just that some people have a lot more steps to climb than others. And we help them. We get the data. Here's the program that's customized for you. It's a complete lifestyle, holistic way to live, basically, that is nurturing and very, very progressive in you taking responsibility. So it's only for those people. It's not for everybody. Believe it or not, there are people who just say, hey, just give me the drugs. I don't have time to work on myself.
Right.
And they don't make very good clients, so we don't accept them as clients.
So good. Well, thank you, Reed, for sharing with us more about the FDN labs and maybe things that clients don't need to be doing, or if they're just listening to this, that there is hope. And also, even while this even topic we're talking about is not needing to do unlimited amounts of labs or curating the right data, there's still a massive benefit and actually recommendation to still run the key labs at the same time in a cluster to really get that information.
And it's affordable. It's affordable. People can invest in that, and they're always glad that they did.
It's less expensive than a surgery, that's for sure.
If you think getting healthy is expensive, try being sick for a while.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Reed, for coming on to the Better Belly podcast.
My pleasure.
Hey friend, I hope you loved this episode. If you've been a fan for a while or newly loving this podcast, can you do me a favor? Drop into Apple Podcasts and leave me a review. When you leave a review, you do so much. You help me know you're listening, you can tell me what you're loving so I know what to make more of, and you help others by boosting this podcast so other people like you can find the podcast too. I mean, it's a win-win-win, right? So if you want a way to pay it forward, just go to Apple Podcasts or click the link in my show notes and leave a rating and review. And if you want some more free stuff, just head over to my free Facebook group, betterbellytherapies.com/Facebook, and you can get access to all of my free support for you, including some Facebook group exclusive stuff like my podcast episode vault, where you can search the Better Belly podcast by topic and find exactly what you need to expedite your healing. I cannot wait to see you guys in there. Catch you guys next week.